There are 5 things I waited too long to do. I know the number exactly because I counted them. On a Tuesday morning in late October of 2024, standing on my back porch with a cup of coffee that went cold in my hand, I counted them out one by one. 5 things, and every last one of them had the same marker on it, the way a gravestone has a date. Too late. At least in the way I had wanted to do them. At least in the way that would have mattered most. I am 76 years old. I have lived my whole life within 5 miles of the hollow where I was born. I was married 53 years to a woman named Martha, and I never once said the words "I love you" out loud to her. Not in 53 years of mornings and suppers and cold winters and all the rest of it. That is one of the 5. I will tell you all 5 before I let you go tonight. There is a thing that gets into the blood of quiet men, mountain men, farming men, men who were raised with their hands and their backs and not much in the way of words for the inside life. It was handed to my daddy, and he handed it to me, and I handed it, Lord help me, on down the line. It is a code that says there is always time for the important thing, and you say it later, and later, and later, until later runs out. I am fixing to name all 5 of those things for you tonight. But before I name them, I need you to understand the machine that makes a man wait so long. Because understanding the machine is the only way out before you run out of road. If you have somebody in your life you have been waiting with, somebody you are planning to say the thing to when the moment is right, sit a spell with me tonight. And if something I say here lands on you the way it landed on me, leave a word in the comments below. Say you were here. Say what it is you have been waiting to say. The next woman who finds this video, and there will be one, and she will need it, she needs to know somebody was here before her. I want to name the pattern before I go any further. Not having a name for a thing is part of how it stays. Men of my generation, mountain men, farming men, coal country men, men raised to provide and stay quiet about what hurt them, were handed a code. The code said, provide, protect, endure, do not ask for help. Do not name what is inside you. Do not say out loud what you feel, because saying it out loud means something about weakness, means something about a man who cannot carry his load. My daddy Earl lived by that code. His daddy lived by it before him. I lived by it for 50, 60, 70 years. I am still living by parts of it, if I am being honest with myself. But here is what I learned too late, standing on that porch in October with that cold cup of coffee going cold in my hand. The code kills the very thing it is trying to protect. That is not strength. That is fear with better manners. I see men of my generation sitting at 70, at 75, at 80, in houses full of people they have loved their entire lives. And not one of those people knows it, not in the way you need to know it, not the way you need to hear it said, because the man never said it. I see sons who watch their daddies work themselves plumb to the bone for a family they could never quite talk to. I see daughters who drove home every Sunday for 40 years and never once heard the words from their father. I see widows, and Lord, I see a good many widows writing to me now, who are not only grieving the man who died, they are grieving the conversation that never happened, the one that was always going to come later. That is not love. That is debt. Here is my reckoning. After 76 years of watching this in my own life and in the lives of men around me, there are 3 reasons a man waits. The first, he believes she already knows. He tells himself she sees what he does. He split the wood, fixed the roof, showed up every morning for 50 years. That ought to count for plain. And the labor is real love. But labor is not the word, and the word is the word, and they are not interchangeable. You cannot pay a word debt with a cord of wood. The second reason is fear. Not the kind you can name at the time. A man who never had the words modeled for him, whose own daddy never said them, doesn't know how to start. And the not knowing how to start wears the face of tomorrow, when I find the right words, which is another way of saying never, because the right words don't come from waiting, they come from deciding. The third reason is the belief that there is time, and this is the cruelest of the three, because it is always true until the morning it isn't. And the morning it isn't, it is too late to go back and be the man who said it yesterday. I aim to tell you all 5 tonight. I am going to get to every one of them. But I needed you to understand the machine first, because the machine is older than any one of us, and naming it is the first step to standing outside of it. My daddy Earl died in 1968 of black lung. He was 60 years old. He had been a coal miner from the age of 14, and the mountain worked its way into his lungs for 50 years and finished what it started. In the fall of 1967, the year before he died, though none of us knew that was the last fall he'd have, he and I were sitting on this porch after supper. The ridge was already dark, the way it gets in November when the sun drops early behind the mountains. He reached into his pocket without saying a word and set his knife down on the arm of my chair. His Barlow knife, the one his own daddy had given him, that he had carried every single day of his life since he was about 12 years old. He set it there and looked out at the ridge and said nothing. I said, "Daddy, that's your knife." He said, "I know it's my knife." I said, "Why are you giving it to me?" He was quiet a long spell. Then he said, "A man does what needs doing. He don't talk about it." And that was all. He went inside. I sat on that porch and turned the knife in my hands and thought I had just been handed the most profound piece of wisdom a man could pass to his son. I said that sentence to people for years afterward. I said it like it was scripture. I told it to my own boys. I was proud of it. I was 60 years old, the exact same age my daddy was when he died, before I understood that he had not been wise. He had been broken. A man does what needs doing. He don't talk about it. Is not a code of strength. It is an apology from a man who never found the words and could not say what he meant to the son who was going to carry his name. My daddy Earl gave me that knife in the fall of 1967 because he could not say what he felt. The knife was the only language he had. He gave me everything he was capable of giving, and what it cost me to receive it and call it wisdom is the engine of everything I am saying tonight. I carry that knife every day. The handle is smooth where his thumb wore the bone over 30-some years, and I can feel the exact place his hand sat on it. I used to think carrying it was carrying him. Now I understand I am carrying the word he could not say. This is the thing underneath all 5 of the things I am about to name. Every one of them is the same mistake in a different coat. I reached for the knife instead of the word. I showed up instead of speaking. I provided instead of said. I built the roof and kept the wood box full and fixed what was broken. And I did not say the one thing that needed saying. And I did it for 53 years before that first frost morning in October put me alone on a back porch with a cold cup of coffee and nowhere left to hide from what I had done. The first thing I have already told you. I went 53 years without saying I love you to my wife Martha, and she died in the spring of 2022, and those words died with her unspoken. That is the first thing. But I want to name the second thing here in this part of the video because it belongs close to the first in the accounting. The night my daddy Earl actually died, I was in the room with him, and then I stepped out to get a glass of water from the kitchen, and he died while I was gone. I was 19 years old. I heard my Mama Hattie make a sound I had never heard a human being make before. I walked back in and my daddy was gone. He had been there and then he was not. And the last thing I had said to him that day was nothing in particular. Something about the weather, something ordinary that meant nothing. I have thought about that moment for 58 years. What it would have meant to be in the room, whether presence counts, even when there are no words left to say. I reckon it counts. I reckon being there is a thing you say that has no other translation. That is the second thing. Be present when presence is all that is left. Don't step out for water. I know a man named Henry. He lives 9 miles from me, in the next hollow over, and he is 81 years old. He lives alone in the house he and his wife Edna kept for 47 years before she died. His son Marcus is in Ohio. His daughter Diane is in Roanoke. They are good children. They have their own families. They call on birthdays and at Christmas. About 2 years ago, Henry and I were standing at the feed store in Marlinton, and he said, "I keep meaning to go up there, see the grandkids before they get any bigger, see Marcus and Diane while they're still glad to see me. But it's a long drive and my back's been at me, and I keep thinking, in the spring when the road dries out, in the fall when it cools off, I'll go up then." That was 2 years ago. As far as I know, Henry is not gone. I think about Henry when I think about the third thing. Go see the people while there is still time. Don't wait for them to come to you. Don't wait until conditions improve. Your back is not going to improve. The road is always long. Go anyway. I waited 40 years on visits I should have made to Martha's people in Logan County. We always meant to go. We just never went. Her mother, Ruby, the woman who gave Martha that cast iron skillet in 1969 and taught her how to make cornbread in it. We went to visit when Ruby got sick, but we didn't go for the ordinary days. The Saturday afternoons that don't seem like anything at the time and turn out to be the days that counted most. There was a man named Hollis I hunted with from about 1975 until he died. We went out together every fall of the year on the ridge above my cabin, just the two of us, for 30-some years, the way men in this part of the country make their friendships. Doing something side by side without talking much about what they feel. Hollis worked a plant job he hated from 1968 onward, and every fall on that ridge he would tell me, "When I retire, I am going to fish every morning and sleep until I want to, and I am going to take Dolly to Gatlinburg the way I promised her back in 1982. He had the whole trip in his head like a picture. The mountains in October color. Dolly on his arm at the overlook. Hollis died of a heart attack at 68 years old. 3 years before he was planning to retire. He had taken Dolly exactly nowhere. Hadn't gone fishing more than twice in the last 10 years. He had set his own life aside to keep it safe for later, and later did not come. Dolly is still alive. She is 79 years old. She has never been to Gatlinburg. That ain't grief. That's evidence. That is what a life looks like when a man treats it as something to be gotten through on the way to the real living. The real living is now. The real living is this Tuesday. The fourth thing. Do the thing you have been saving for later. Today is as good as later. And today, unlike later, actually exists. Now I have to tell you about the one that was hardest for me to name. And I have to tell it through my own life, because there is no other way. My son Caleb died in October of 2009. He was 34 years old. He is buried beside his mother now, on the hillside behind Spruce Creek Baptist, with the rest of the Wilsons who have gone before him. From the day he died until that first frost morning of October 2024, that is 15 years, I could not say his name out loud. Not to my daughter Ruth Ann, not to my son Daniel, not to Frank Mullins, who had known Caleb since the day he was born. If someone mentioned my youngest, I would say, my boy, and go quiet and let the subject die. I kept a photograph of him at 16, the one with the guitar, turned to face the wall for 4 years. I went plumb silent on the inside, and I made the silence look like carrying on. Martha said his name the whole time. She would say, I've been thinking about Caleb today, and I would go very still, and she would understand. And we would not say anything more. She carried that name for both of us for 13 years. She was better at grief than I was. That is the confession I owe this video. I could not grieve my own son in front of my own wife, so she grieved him for both of us. And she never once said a word to me about what that cost her. She was that good. Grieve when the grief is fresh. Name the name. Let the thing be what it is. Grief that is not named does not go away. It goes down. And everything you pile on top of it, all the years of getting up and going on like you are fine, is just weight on the lid. The lid does not hold forever. Mine held for 15 years. And when it came up, standing at that kitchen table in October of 2024, it came up all at once. I said Caleb's name 3 times out loud. Then I said Martha. Then I said I love you. I should have said it. And then I cried. And I had not cried in 40 years. And that is not strength. That is just what the code costs. The 5th thing. I have a daughter named Ruth Ann. She is 53 years old. She is the one who stayed in this county when her brother Daniel left. She raised 2 children on her own after a marriage that was not kind to her. She brings me supper every Wednesday. She drove her mother to every single chemo appointment for 15 months without missing one. She sat with Martha in that back bedroom at the end, and she stayed until the end came. She is, in every way I know how to measure, the person who has held what is left of this family together since her mother went. I have never told Ruth Ann I was proud of her. I have been meaning to. On Wednesday evenings, when she is putting her coat on to drive the 6 miles home in the dark, I think about saying it. I want to say it. I say drive safe instead, and she drives safe. And another Wednesday goes. I am doing the exact thing I am warning you against tonight. I know it. I am naming it here, out loud, because the moment I name it to you is the moment I cannot keep pretending I will get to it eventually. The 5th thing, tell the people around you that they are doing good, that you see what they carry, that you are proud of them. Not next month. Tonight when you turn this off. There is a thing I should probably tell you about before I let you go. I've been going back and forth on whether to say anything. Ruth Ann would be mad at me if I didn't mention it, so I'll mention it briefly. About a year after Martha passed, I started writing letters, by hand, at this kitchen table. Letters to Martha, letters to my boy Caleb, letters to my daddy Earl, who died at 60 before I ever told him what he meant to me. Letters to my brother Curtis, who came home from Vietnam in a flag-covered box in the spring of 1969. Letters I should have given when there was still somebody to give them to. I called it The Things We Don't Say. Letters I should have given when there was still somebody to give them to. I wasn't going to show them to anybody. They were mine. Then Ruth Ann came by one Wednesday evening, and she saw the box sitting on the table, and before I could stop her, she sat on the back porch and read 3 of them. She cried out there about 20 minutes, came back inside and said, "Daddy, you gotta let other people see these. There's mamas out there. There's widows out there. They need to read these." I said no for about 3 months. She has her mother's stubbornness, and she wore me down. A woman named Mabel in Kentucky, she's 81, lost her husband 9 years ago. She read the book and wrote her own letters to him by hand on notebook paper, took them to his grave one Sunday morning and read them out loud in the cold. Said it was the first time she'd cried in 7 years. A woman named Verna in Ohio. She's 74. Her son hadn't called her in 2 years. She wrote him a letter the way I described, mailed it. He called the day he got it, and they talked for 2 hours. And a woman named Pearl in Pennsylvania. She's 80. Lost a son to addiction at 29. Hadn't been able to say his name out loud in 11 years. After she read the letter I wrote to Caleb, she said her own son's name at the kitchen sink, said it 3 times. Then she made his favorite dinner for the first time since he passed. My son Daniel called me from Charlotte last week, says I shouldn't have put this out there, says it's family business. He might be right. I keep going back and forth on whether to leave it up. If you want to read it, you might want to look now. I can't promise it'll stay. The link is in the pinned comment under this video. That's all I'll say about it. Anyway, I haven't forgotten Ruth Ann. I aim to say it soon. I still carry my daddy's knife every day. It is in my right pocket right now, where it has been for 58 years since he set it on the arm of that chair. The handle is smooth where his thumb wore the bone, and I can feel the exact place his hand sat on it for 30-some years before he handed it off. When I was young, I thought carrying it was a way of carrying him. Now I understand it different. I am carrying the word he could not say. I am carrying it because he could not set it down and could not hand it off any other way. My daddy Earl was not a cold man. He was a man who had been handed the same silence by his own daddy 40 years before, who had been handed it before him, back and up the mountain, as far as you want to count the generations. He was a captive of the same code I was a captive of. He gave me what he had. The knife was everything he knew how to give, but a knife is not the words. I know that now. I am going to pass that knife on to Thomas Caleb, Ruth Ann's Hannah's boy, my great-grandson, the one who carries his great-uncle's name. And when I do, I aim to tell him what it cost. I want him to have the knife and the words both. I want him to know they are not the same thing, and that the words are not optional. And the letters are in the pinned comment if you need them. If you're listening to me tonight, friend, if you have somebody in your life you've been waiting with, some word you've been holding for the right moment, I want you to hear me. There is no right moment. There is only the moment you decide you are going to make it right. The person sitting across from you at supper tonight, asleep in the next room, 6 hours away, calling on the first Sunday of the month like clockwork for 23 minutes, saying everything except the one thing that needs to be said. The moment is now. It has always been now. We talk ourselves out of it every day, and then one day there is nobody left to say it to. I am a late man, friend. Don't you be one too.